Hello, you're live with BBC News. The Democratic Republic of Congo says Rwanda is ignoring calls for a ceasefire. After M23, rebels seized a second city. The government says Rwanda is violating the DRC's territorial integrity. The fall of the city of Bukavu gives the M23 total control of Lake Kivu following its capture of GMA at the end of January, and has highlighted growing fears about the escalation of the war in the mineral-rich region. We can now speak to Fred B., the executive director of Gemelli Research Institute based in Kinshasa, focusing on politics and government governance in the DRC. Thanks for joining us on BBC News. What's your assessment of what's happening on the battlefield? Because what we're hearing is reports of government forces simply retreating when challenged by their bells. Yes. What we've seen on the battlefield the last weeks, if you can say, is the retreats of FFRDC, the Cone's army, but also of the local militia. There was Zando and the Burundian force that was supporting them, all the way from the mountains in K and South Kivu to Bukavu, and now the M23 has reached Pavo, and it continuously controlling. And we hearing they also thinking of putting an administration in Bukavu as they did in North K. And just to take a step back, these are incredibly mineral rich, parts of the DRC North KVU and South KVU places that have minerals that we use in many of our devices, like mobile phones, laptops. Now the US, the EU, the UN Security Council are all calling for a ceasefire in the eastern DRC that hasn't worked so far. So what can be done, right? So far there have been calls for ceasefire not only by the US and Europe, but also by BIOM, the SADC, and East African Community country recently. But there is no enough pressure on both parties to seize the attack, especially on M23 and Rwanda. And without that, it's less likely that there will be any ceasefire in coming days. And I think M23 is slowly, and AFC is slowly reaching its objective of controlling a large part of North Kivu and South K. And unfortunately, without the proper response for good, Congo government and the international community, this may go in other provinces as well, Fred. As we're speaking, I just want to let our viewers know that we also have live pictures on the screens at the moment. This is from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and this is the plane that is carrying Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State. So he's just arriving there in Saudi Arabia. And of course he'll have key meetings, crucially those meetings between US officials and Russian officials about ending the war in Ukraine. He'll also be talking about the war in Gaza and the future for the territory. Fred, just going back to you and the situation there in eastern Congo, you're from GMA, the major city of eastern Congo that has been taken over by M23. What are you hearing from people there about the impact of the war? The impacts of the war has been dramatic on populations of GMA, as you know. Before M236, GMA was almost under siege for about a year. So cost of commodity increased significantly. There were almost 800. There was a refugee displacement. People around Gaz, the life of those people, and GMA citizen was also equally difficult. Now the banking system in GMA is not functional yet. People have difficulty to have access to the small economy that they have, and in the bank, even if the daily life is starting slowly, but there's still a lot of issue to resolve, and a lot of uncertainty, especially for people who do not know where all this is going. So yeah, it has been a tough year, and it's continued to be a tough time for people who are in GMA and other places. Fred Balmer, political analyst in Kinshasa, thank you so much for joining us on UKK News. Thank you.